mission is to awaken human consciousness and change all systems on the planet, from energy, education, farming, commerce, media, etc. And so that's my mission, and my vision is clean air, water, soil, and equitable systems for all mankind in my lifetime. In today's world, we have this Goggins mentality, like everyone's got to be a Navy SEAL. That's bullshit, right? Walking is the best exercise for the human body. You don't need drugs to be healthy, right? You can do this all with nature. You can do it all with nutrition. The purpose of tobacco is to ground you and clear negative spirits, negative energy. Like anything we have on planet Earth, right? Then we commodify it, and then we adulterate it, and we synthesize it, we standardize it, we isolate it, we patent it so we can make money for big business, whether that's cocaine, and then stomp on it again, it's crack cocaine. But if you get mambe or coca leaves and you're up in the Andes, and it's very euphoric and it's nutrition. The people in the Andes, they won't work if they don't have their coca leaves. And it's got a natural postnasal drip that goes down there, and it feeds you this powerful nutrition that's loaded with calcium for your bones at high elevations.
This is Kicking Ass, Taking Names podcast, and today we are here with a very special guest, author of Ripped at 50, Troy Casey, CHN Certified Health Nut, over 16 years that I've seen on YouTube. So
almost 2 decades.
This guy is one of the OGs on YouTube. We're going to talk about all about health, fitness, and he's done some really trippy shit. So let's get into it. All right, Troy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so I know we were going into it. So I'm feeling it today because I want to get in the mindset of all my guests, and actually started doing like a parasitic cleanse. And I'm definitely feeling that today, So I have so many questions for you, but I guess just to start, before we go into it, so how did you become, let's start with the beginning. How did you become certified health nut, and what got you into wanting to do that?
Yeah, so I started studying internal purification, herbs. I mean, you're on a parasite cleanse, right? I started studying that, fasting, juice fasting, herbal medicine. 33 years ago, I was sitting in Milan, Italy, as a Versace model, and I had my own problems with digestion, and I knew nothing about nutrition. And so I went down to the American bookstore, picked up a couple of books on nutrition, and started reading it. I was living in Italy. They had farmers markets there, and I had never been to a farmers market. I grew up on Captain Crunch and Pop-Tarts, if you will, here in the United States. Standard American diet, they call it. And so I took the time to read the literature, and then went down and shopped at the farmer's market and started eating more whole foods, fruits and vegetables, and cleaned out my system and instantly got results. And so I was hooked. And then I started reading about herbs, herbal medicine, and I was bloating at the time, and the agents would reflect that back to me, like, "Oh, honey, you're fat," It's a ruthless business. And the girls, they would get eating disorders, right? And then they get hooked on, cigarettes, coffee, and cocaine, basically. So that was the beginning. That was about 33 years ago. I came back to the United States, bought a juicer, did my first 10-day juice cleanse, juice fast. And I looked in the mirror, and I was partying quite a bit at that time, early 20s. And I looked in the mirror, and I looked 10 years younger. I looked super clean. All the wrinkles went out of my face, all the inflammation, and I was hooked. And since then, I've done 3 to 4 fasts, liver flushes, parasite cleanses, colon flushes, etc., 3 to 4 times a year for the last 30 years. And now I basically fell into a window of intermittent fasting, which is about 16 to 18 hours every day. And I include some fresh squeezed juices or superfoods and herbs during that time. More of a calorie restricted fasting routine is what I fell into. And so I partied pretty hard. I lived in Miami at the time. It's when Miami had its resurgence.
What year was this?
In the 90s. So I started modeling in 1989, and I was in Italy, 89, 90, 91, and started going to Miami in 1990. And I went to Miami every winter from 90 to 97. And during that time, I partied pretty hard, tried to sober up a few times. And then it wasn't until I moved to Los Angeles to start an acting career that I realized I couldn't build a new career as a drunk, right? And so I sobered up, and I found Vipassana meditation, and I sat long 10-day courses in silence, 10, 12 hours of meditation a day. And that revolutionized my consciousness. I really felt amazing, much better. Neuroplasticity they talk about, there's a lot of research on that, and what it did to calm my nervous system and help me relax and stop drinking, ultimately. At the same time, I was exposed to Maori healers from New Zealand, very powerful spiritual healers, and I witnessed miracles within myself and then with others, and I've been working with them for the past 25 years. And soon after that, I was introduced to an herbal company from the Amazon rainforest, so wild botanicals from the Amazon, and those are the strongest plants on Earth. 25% of all cancer drugs, 25% of all cancer drugs and 40% of all drugs on the market get their impetus from rainforest botanicals. Mm-hmm. So I went down there and I studied. Our vendors were the Shipibo Indians, and they have all the herbal lore that's been saved for thousands of years, and they are the keepers of the ayahuasca, if you will. They're not the only one, but they're probably the most famous tribe down there and well known for their herbal lore. And so I worked with the top 40 shamanics, Cat's Claw, Unyagato, Sangre de Drago, Chuchuwasi, very powerful plants, and they took my consciousness to a whole different level. I started putting these rainforest botanicals into my body, and the frequency and vibration, my energy field increased. I could feel it. It was palpable. And so so those were kind of my three big wake-up calls. And then while I was in the Amazon researching the plants, I drank ayahuasca with the Shipibo, and I had three very powerful visions back in 2006. And the first one was the spirit of my daughter came to me. And I was not married at the time, and I was almost 40. And I always knew I was going to have children, but I wasn't planning on it. Mm-hmm. And the spirit of my daughter came to me, and my family has been unfolding ever since. My daughter is now 13 on Saturday.
Have you told her this?
Oh, she knows. She's one of the most powerful spirits I've ever been around. Like she's a superstar. There's just no doubt about it. And I don't let her on social media at all. I protect my children from that and keep them off the devices for as much as possible. Mm-hmm. But as she comes on camera with me, we have a little cooking show we do, and then we have an eating show called a mukbang, which is Korean, and she's Korean. So we eat in front of everybody. And so you can find her on my YouTube channel. And so she's been exposed to a little bit of it, but she doesn't have her own channel. But she'll be a superstar the second she chooses what she wants to do in life. And so that's just the way she is. And so anyways, her powerful spirit came to me before I was married. And then when I got home, I wasn't in a relationship. So the handful of girls I was dating in Los Angeles at the time, I kind of interviewed them. And a lot of people are there to become actresses or do something with their career, their life. And so nobody was really interested except for this one woman. And we became friends and then decided to have a family, and everything's been unfolding ever since. The second vision that I had was the amalgamation of my on-camera career, my natural medicine studies, and I was doing stand-up comedy at the time at the Comedy Store on the Sunset Strip in LA, and the certified health nut popped into my head right in the middle of an ayahuasca ceremony, and I just burst out laughing, and I thought, hey, that's pretty funny. And I came out of the jungle with all this exotic footage, working with the Indians, researching these plants, interviewing the shamans down there, and YouTube was a brand new reality.
Right.
And before that, it wasn't. And YouTube was very interesting because early on, the fitness guys were just young guys on steroids or guys on steroids, and the other health people were vegans. And like that was it.
Yeah.
That and then I found Paul Chek. That's how I found Paul Chek. And Paul Chek's the leading strength training guy in the world. And it was great because he taught with his shirt off, and he really knew his stuff, and he could deadlift 450 pounds. He was the real deal. And so that's how I found Paul Chek, and since then, studied with him. And then the third vision was that humanity makes it from the precipice of ecological disaster that we find ourselves in. I was working in the Amazon at the time. Amazon is 2/3 of our water and 1/3 of our oxygen. And so it's a pretty important ecosystem, and it's being cut down at an alarming rate for industry, oil, lumber, and cash crops. And Indians are getting pushed off their land for their natural resources that are there. And they are the stewards of the forest and the safeguards to all this herbal knowledge. Yeah. And so I thought it was very important, and I was called to my own mission that I'm living right now, which is to, for lack of better terminology, is to save the planet or awaken human consciousness. My personal stated mission is to awaken human consciousness and change all systems on the planet, from energy, education, farming, commerce, media, etc. And so that's my mission, and my vision is clean air, water, soil, and equitable systems for all mankind in my lifetime.
So now knowing all this, like when I was doing some research on you and studying you, you're very focused on clean body, clean mind, clean soul, right? I want to start with like the beginning, right? If you're somebody who's, today there's a lot of toxins in the world. Let's start with like the beginning. You cleanse your body. How do you do that?
So first, I'd like to bring in the law of correspondence, which is natural law. And the law of correspondence states, as above, so below. How do we expect the world to be healthy if we are not healthy as individuals? And so that's where the clean body, clean mind comes in, purification of the soul, ultimately. And so, and by no means do I want to come off like I'm any kind of savior or anything else. I am just like anyone else. All my brothers and sisters on this planet, we are going through this transformation of consciousness, this journey of becoming, or the journey of walking home back to God, the journey of oneness, wholeness, etc. And so I never want to come off as that, but these are my discoveries of what I've discovered walking the face of this earth. And so, so as above, so below. How do we expect the world to be healthy if we're not healthy ourselves? And 70% of the American people are obese or overweight. 9 out of 10 Americans are metabolically dysfunctional. Diabetes is an all-time high. We've got chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, all these newfangled diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. And so, and you are what you eat is an axiom that's not going away ever. Right? So we are of the earth, and food is naturally comes from the soil. And depending on the health of the soil is the quality of the food. And the quality of the food is directly related to the quality of life we live. And so it's very important to get back to the earth, get back to the dirt. Dr. Zach Bush talks about this extensively. Paul Chek talks about this extensively. And actually, the one video that really changed my life on YouTube, and I believe it's the best nutrition video on planet Earth, right, on the whole internet. It's called The Dirt Facts by Paul Chek. The Dirt Facts, nutrition, the dirt facts. And he doesn't even talk about macronutrients. He talks about the soil composition, the nematodes, the worms and the parasites, everything that makes up the microbial structure of the soil, taking in the energy from the celestial realm into the paramagnetic rocks, being uptaked by the plants, and the closed organic cycle that comes from there through photosynthesis, and how everything dies and the microbes eat everything else, eats our carcasses, right? So you're in the middle of a parasite cleanse. Yeah. Parasites and fungus, we're in symbiotic relationship with them. You can't get away from them. And so when it's your time to die, Mother Nature's garbage cleaners come and decompose you. That's why you don't want to let the fungus and the parasites get out of hand. You don't want to be a big host to these parasites and fungus. You want to be strong. That's why doing a parasite cleanse every once in a while helps to keep your system strong, your immune system strong, and keeps those critters at bay. The world's very dirty right now, energetically dirty. We have electromagnetic radiation and pollution. We have billions of pounds of toxic compounds pumped into the environment since the dawn of the industrial age. And this all bioaccumulates in our tissues. And so the critters are coming home to roost right now. A lot of people think that there's a direct correlation to cancer and parasites, right?
Yeah.
Ivermectin, which got really bad-mouthed during the coronavirus, is actually anti-parasitic. And so we got off.
Well, that's actually really interesting. So one of my greatest supporters is my mom. She watches this. She's going to watch this. She's going to love this episode. So a lot of these questions I'm going to ask for her. So like, for example.
You did good, Mom. He's a good kid. I can tell.
So she has lupus. My grandmother died from breast cancer. So, I mean, these are, when I think of like how this can, for example, your mission, I think of the greater thing is, yes, we can talk about the story, but we know your mission is to like help in general, right? Now, how can we make this 1 hour that we have really useful for the people who are watching? I think with your knowledge of, and I also am a huge like fitness nut, health nut. Of course, I have like all my bad habits. You know, I'm a caffeine and nicotine addict. I want to get into that as well. But before we get into that, like, what do you say? Like, okay, so autoimmune disease, obesity, diabetes. I mean, it's prevalent in a lot in my family, and I'm sure a lot of people who are watching. So, like, let's say if we were to break this down into the essential elements, what are like the essential elements of a good life, of having a good body composition, of having that like mind, body, and soul, right? What is your, what have you learned like in this last 10, 15, 20 years, probably even more, 30 years. Actually, I forget that you're almost 60. So, so in these last 30 years, like what are some of the greatest, what is some of the best advice and the best things you've learned? And I know you already labeled that video, but personally, if you could tell us.
Yeah, so that's why I've developed my curriculum, whether it's my online courses or whether it's in the book. In physics, they call it first principles. You can't have this without that, right? You can't have these precursors. You can't have a foundation of health. These are foundation principles, first principles. So I've developed the 9 pillars of health, how I define it, the platform, the foundation of health. And so there's nothing new underneath the sun. It's the same thing if you go and study with a martial arts master. They're not going to teach you the fancy stuff until you learn the basics of punch, block, kick, right? And so the punch, block, kick of health is, I mean, let's just talk about nutrition. The father of modern day medicine, Hippocrates, simply said, let thy food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food. And so we've gotten a little far away from that, and we've created fake food, right? That's why so many people are lost right now. Excuse me. Let me get this water.
Oh, I'm feeling it too with this cleanse.
Yeah, I just did it. I just did the first round of my parasite cleanse. I'll wait a few more days, and then I'll hit it again.
How do you get into those? Like, what is what's your, like, what is the first stage, second stage?
The first stage, I like to do a dry fast, so choke those motherfuckers off.
Yeah.
And so give them nothing, no food, no water, nothing. And so my body will go through its interstitial fluid, or the cellular fluid that's stored in my body, and it'll go after that fast. So it'll dry the body up. It'll soak all the inflammation up. And then the critters have natural die-off. And then from there, I'll usually take some herbs the night before I do a dry fast, and I'll try and go for at least 36 hours. And then from there, I will go and then start hitting it with herbs. And I'll do that for about 10 days. And I'll do some water fasting, some juice fasting for as long as possible. Maybe come in with some bone broth. I ran a little bit thin when the book came out, and for the marketing of the book, it was like my fighting weight, and I think my my tendons, my ligaments were starting to feel it a little bit. So I'm actually packing on muscle. I'm bulking back up because I'm going to write my third book, which is going to be another fitness book, health and fitness book, when I'm 60. And so, so I'm bulking up right now. And so it's called #CockD at 60.
Yeah.
And so, so we're on the parasite.
Well, back to foundation health. I just wanted to ask about that, but foundations of health, autoimmune disease,
So there's no need for the fancy stuff until you've covered your bases. And so body needs sleep every day. That's the anabolic phase. That's where we build back up. So optimizing sleep hygiene, getting to bed around 10 or when the sun goes down, getting away from blue light and screens as much as possible after the sun goes down, waking up early, maybe getting the sun in your eyes, the red light, that's good balancing mechanism. Getting grounded, electromagnetism is everywhere. Dirty electricity is in our house, Wi-Fi, electromagnetic frequencies, and pollution. So getting grounded, getting our feet on the ground each and every day. You get the electricity from the sun and the magnetism from the earth. So you need nature principles. You need to either get into nature. I lived in Santa Monica and Venice for many years, and so I would get out to the beach, the water, once or twice a day. I would get my feet in the grass. I go out to the trails here in Scottsdale. So nature is a principle. We're in relationship. We're in symbiotic relationship with everyone and everything. So it's good to harmonize with that. Practice gratitude and forgiveness is very important. Hydration. We're 70% water. Our brain's 90% water. So it's very important. The quality of water. You don't want to be drinking sewage water, right? So you want to look at variations all the way back up to the purest. And so source the best water you can for your body because you're mostly water, and source that water without going neurotic. Get a reverse osmosis system plugged into your house. Get a distiller put on your countertop, and then structure that water. Make the water bioavailable, more bioavailable. Make sure it has minerals in it and stuff, so it doesn't strip the body of minerals. The body needs sleep. We went over that. The body needs movement. The body has lymphatic fluids. It has blood. The Chinese call it qi. And so we need that qi to flow, that energy to flow, the blood to flow, the lymph to flow. The pump for the lymph is the pelvic floor, the transverse abdominis, and the diaphragm. So the body needs to move to pump those fluids. A stagnant body of water turns into a cesspool. And so you want to make a body rife for cancer or disease or problems, then don't move the body, right? So the body needs to move, and exercise is simple. I think in today's world, we have this Goggins mentality, like everyone's got to be a Navy SEAL. That's bullshit, right? Walking is the best exercise for the human body. And I love David Goggins, by the way. I think he's a powerful inspiration, especially for men in today's sedentary world. But driving yourself into the ground, that's where I come in. I work with CEOs. I work with even younger men that are burnt out. They're on Viagra. They're on TRT. And I teach them a better way. You don't need drugs to be healthy, right? You can do this all with nature. You can do it all with nutrition. So the body needs movement. The body needs sleep. The body needs water. The body needs good nutrition. The body needs, we're in relationship with other people. And the number one thing that I teach, besides breathing mechanics and then also reprogramming the mind, mental, which is part of, I know where your head's at as well and your colleagues. And so mindset, is a critical component. But the number one component I teach and my legacy method program is legacy, purpose. Men need purpose. I postulate that women having children is enough. Nothing is more important than rearing the children, nourishing and nurturing the children. And so I've got a big point of contention with feminism because feminism destroyed the family, right? My mother didn't start working till 1979. Gloria Steinem worked with the CIA. If you watch Aaron Russo's film, From Freedom to Fascism, in 2010. He talked about being friends with David Rockefeller. And they wanted two people to pay into the tax structure so they can control the people and the family more. The Rockefellers also created the educational system that we have right now. And they didn't want to make smart humans. They wanted to make good factory workers.
Yeah, workers, yeah.
Right. And this is the world that we're living in right now. So it's all about breaking free beyond that. And so men need a purpose, right? Otherwise, they go around aimlessly and they can hurt things because we're men, right? We've got testosterone. And so if they're lost and they don't know where they're going, well, just look at the world today, right? And so it's a good idea for men to have purpose, a legacy, a dream from their heart's desire, not the head and how it's going to monetize it, what your effortless genius is, what is a no-brainer to you, what did you like to do as a child, and really honing in on that. That's what I do in my men's groups and in my coaching programs. And so because that's going to give you a due north when you wake up in the morning. Then it's easy to eat the right things, to go to bed on time, because you have a dream and that is guiding you. When people come to me and they want the secret sauce, the secret diet, and the secret exercise program, that doesn't work, because what works for me, or all the tweaks and the workarounds I've done for my own personality and upbringing, etc., may not work for the next guy, or what's available on the market for them if they live across the world. And so it's everything's individualized, but what dictates your ability to move your body in a way that's going to support your dreams, to feed yourself, to go to bed on time, to build good, strong relationships, is that dream, that purpose, that legacy. And if you do want to have a family, and this is one of the first things I work with my clients, is I interview both men and women. Do you want to have a family? Because nothing is more innate in human consciousness than procreation, than having children, right? That spreading seed. We're an organism, right? We're children of God here to replicate this whole journey, if you will. And so, because if the answer is yes, then let's build a lifestyle around that. Let's prepare you to attract the right mate instead of going out there and getting laid. And like I said, feminism, hookup culture, pornographic culture, like ruins so many things in life. And again, I'm not here trying to get up on a pedestal or anything. I've fallen. I've had plenty of issues. There's a lot of people that are all pro-abortion and stuff. I'm here to tell you that I created 9 abortions in my reality that I can remember, right? And every single one of those women that I had sex with and impregnated them were heartbroken. They were they felt abused and violated, ripping that life out of their body. And so there's a lot of things that we have conceptually, and I'm into women's empowerment. This is women's empowerment. Let's get healthy. Let's get clear. If we're going to spread seed, that's very powerful energy. I do the sexual kung fu practices and people think it's funny, this, that, and the other thing, but I'm also celibate, right? I'm very clear that my energy at this stage of my life, right? I was younger once and I went out and gallivanted and did all sorts of things that I don't approve of right now. And that's part of the human experience, but I'm very clear right now. The family is sacred. Your sexuality is powerful. You can create worlds. If you create an Elon Musk, for example, and he goes and seeds Mars and creates alternative realities and AI systems and, all of this stuff, then, Clone Wars and Star Wars and all that stuff. So you can go out and create worlds, right? Just with your own creativity, with your own seed. And so that's very powerful. So channel and cultivate that. I mean, you can build a business. Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, chapter 11, is all on sexual transmutation. And so I think it's a good idea as young men and women understanding the sexuality and this testosterone that men have and help the men guide them, right? Don't just go into hookup culture because it's very short-lived. And now with pair bonding research out there, women that sleep with more than 5 men, they only have a 20% success rate at marriage. And let me tell you, coming from a broken family and coming from my own relationship challenges and divorce, and my children have been divorced. That is not happiness, right? Yeah. I would choose to have my family together at 100%. And I did that. I brought my family back together after divorce, and it didn't work out in the end. And I think a lot of it has to do with the programming around being a boss babe and fuck your husband and, fuck the man and all this stuff. And I think part of that is a product of that. And like, you don't need, listen no man.
And what I also, what I have an opinion on that is that it's also this kind of thinking that we're going to go with whatever we feel, right? So you think about, I feel like this, this person who I'm talking to, they have like, this is like a negative energy right now. I want to get away with it. But realistically, there's no such thing as progress without pain. There's no such thing as getting to the other side without feeling that tension and that, problem in your body or whatever you have to do. Building muscle requires struggle, right? And so I think that that's also a huge part of it, and that's the mental part of it, and that's I want to get into that. I wanted to ask you about the the way that some of the things that people don't even realize. So the reason why I bring up parasites is because I was told, and the same thing that you said earlier was that it's like the origin of many different diseases that are happening today. If you think about how much like farm salmon and all of this other stuff it's such a prevalent thing. Like I've heard of, have you heard of the grape cure from Dr. Rhonda
Patrick?
Gosh, I don't remember her name, but I know it's called the grape cure. I have it on my Audible, actually. I need to get it. But so it's like a grape fast. They just do pure grapes, and and people do it for 40 days sometimes. And it kills all of these parasites out of the body. But I started like 5 years ago. I heard about it, and I did like a 3 or 4 day grape fast. And I thought, like, you know what? I'm starting to see what I think are parasites. But now that I'm older, I think it could have been just grapes because we were just eating grapes. So I was like, what? Well,
I would hope that the grapes would have grape seeds in them.
Yeah.
Because the grapeseed extract is excellent for killing all sorts of stuff. It's
same with papaya, right? Papaya
antifungal.
seeds.
Yep. Antiparasitic is the papaya, and so I have in my little South American medicine pouch here. I was at a conference recently with Dr. Judy Minkowitz, Fauci's whistleblower. They put her in jail, but anyways, these are apricot seeds, B17 Laetril, and so you should, if you're looking at curing the incurables, I think these things might even be illegal.
What?
And so apricot kernels, B17. You want to look into something powerful. Purified extract of the apricot seed, Laetril, B17. This is it's so bitter that critters don't like bitter, and the bitter, the better for the liver in herbalism. And so there are plenty of tools, right? God didn't leave us hanging. We have forsaken God, right? And so intelligent design, whatever you'd like to call it, there's plenty of plants here, especially in this environment. Harsh environments create the best and strongest medicines. So a lot of the cacti, especially if you're looking at snake venom bites, the barrel cactus, if you look at it, it has a doctrine of signature. So the barrel cactus, if you look at the cacti spires, it's hooked like a rattlesnake, and it has ridges on its back. If you look at the spire, it resembles a rattlesnake. And in the doctrine of signatures of plants, there is some type of clue of what the medicine is good for. So if you cut a tomato open, for example, it has 4 ventricles or 4 chambers like your heart, and it has lycopene, which lo and behold is good for the heart. A walnut you crack that open, and it looks like a brain inside of it, right?
Yeah.
Your head's hard, the walnut hole is hard, and so, and lo and behold, the oils and the nutrients that are in the walnuts are good for the brain. And so this goes, throughout herbology as well. And so, the barrel cactus, if you get bit by a snake, the herbal lore word around the campfire, you got to be careful of what you say, right? Because the industries that are so powerful, they can have point of contention with that. And
So do you think that there would be, like, let's say somebody you care about deeply is getting cancer today, what would you tell them to do?
Well, what happens with that situation, because I've been getting the calls for the last 20 years helping people with their loved ones. The problem with cancer, once you get that diagnosis, cancer is a lifestyle overhaul. It's a call for a lifestyle overhaul. So you haven't been living. Maybe you've been living in too much comfort. You've been living inside, right? Seated positions, right? Not moving your body. Eating things that aren't meant for human consumption, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and then not getting enough sunlight, not grounding, the list goes on. Because we've gotten so far away from nature, and there's so much electromagnetic radiation and pollution, and there's so much chemical compounds in the environment, we are layered with dysfunction. And so it's not coming from any one area, it's coming from a multiplicity of ways. And so,
It's a whole lifestyle change you have to have.
correct. You got to hit it at every level. We're trapped into the mindset of allopathic medicine, this for that. Here's a silver bullet that will treat your symptom, right? It's not going to go to the root. Holistic health goes to the root, or the etiology of the problem. And that could be mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. A lot of my weight loss clients, I work with them emotionally because we carry a protective layer. Maybe we were sexually abused as a child, or we were shamed or bullied or put down by our parents. And so we put this protective barrier around us. So if I help you out with your diet, nutrition, your fitness, fasting, those types of things may not apply because the body emotionally is still going to carry that weight. And it's been said that we have to weight, W-A-I-T, in direct proportion to the amount of emotional weight, W-E-I-G-H-T, that we carry with us, right? And so, again, I work with clients emotionally and or spiritually to get beyond that if they've tried all the diets and the exercise programs and they just don't work. Where were we?
Well, actually, I'm kind of with you on that one. We're flowing with the conversation. But you know what is also really interesting is I went to a holistic doctor, and his name's Dr. Doan, out in Washington, and he does a Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
And so he does palm reading. So he did palm reading on me.
Takes your pulse.
Yeah, pulse reading. Sorry, pulse reading. And he did pulse reading on me, and it was like 8 years ago. He said, "You have the pulse of a Navy SEAL. Something happened when you were a baby, and you almost died." And I said, "Yeah, that's true," because I got sick off of water when I went to Bangladesh, because my dad's from there. So I visited as a baby, and I got sick from the water. I got giardia.
Giardia, yeah.
I almost died. So then, I got better, but apparently my pulse never healed.
Well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And actually, I studied with somebody in the Pacific Northwest. His name's Mick Dodge, and National Geographic did 39 episodes on him. And he lives up in the Hoh Rainforest. Do you know where that is?
In Washington?
It's on the Olympic Peninsula.
Oh, okay.
It's in the corner of it.
That's got to be northwest, yeah.
In Washington. It's a very northwest part of the United States of America. And so he said if you get giardia, that's the medicine that you need. So, it sounds like you got a gift from that as a child. And so again, this is far out philosophy, right?
Right.
But it makes you think different. And if somebody can write the book, The Obstacle is the Way, and you got Giardia as a child, it didn't kill you, yet it made you stronger and gave you the pulse of a Navy SEAL, so you can be calm in the face of fuckery or calm in the storm, right?
He also said there was a negative effect of that, is that beyond the age of like 30 or 40, it'll wear away if I don't settle it, which he said it could tear away at my heart artery because of the constant flow of like these really powerful, like adrenal, whatever type of things that the human body produces.
Glucocorticoids.
Yeah, and that's what he told me.
Some
and
type of neurotransmitters.
It's interesting because either he saved my file, but I went back 8 years later and he gave me another palm reading, and I was asking, or not palm reading, pulse reading, and I asked, he said, okay, so what are you in here? He said, actually, never mind, don't tell me. And then he goes through and he says the same thing again. He said, you still have that pulse in the Navy SEAL. You also have some severe allergy to something that you've been taking or eating or something in the air. And at that time, I was feeling sick at the time, but I don't know what I've changed in my diet, but I'm feeling better. But as far as like that thing, he said, that's still there, which is really interesting. It's like,
what was his prescription for you to alleviate that? Some type of meditation or finding your spiritual path? Or
it was actually over like 3 months, like an herbal, some herbs that he was going to give me, Chinese herbs. And he said that he said the body runs hot, cold, and then it either runs, I think he said positive or negative, but I don't remember. There's like it goes hot, cold, positive, negative. And then he said if you have like a certain ailment, you go on one side. If you have certain ailments on the other side. And it just was like, I mean, that was really far east medicine, most Eastern medicine that I've witnessed. So
yeah, I'd like to get his name and number, and then I would definitely continue to work with him. I mean,
yeah, I didn't end up starting on all those herbs yet, but it's something that's on my list. But he does say that if you have like a lot of people, they live their lives and they don't know, like, just like their body is, either too alkaline or too acidic, and too hot or too cold, and they actually run the wrong temperature and they run the wrong alkalinity.
Yeah. And all the ancient sages have said balance, right? Finding that balance or that neutrality for your personal experience, your personal biochemical makeup, etc. And so I would definitely work with them. And here's the thing about newsflash about herbs. Herbs aren't like drugs, right? They're natural cofactors. They're balanced nutrition, right? So your body's going to take what's useful and discard the rest. And the bitterness or the poison that's in plants is actually the medicine, right? But because it has other nutritional cofactors and minerals and keeps everything balanced, it's not going to give you side effects, which side effects from drugs are not really side effects. That's what's called a marketing gimmick. Right? They are toxic effects on the human body. And so, and what we were talking about earlier, you were talking about cancer, right? And ultimately those has to do a lot with lifestyle choices. And then there are certain protocols that are cancer related. So for example, Gerson therapy, and I had a video recently because we were talking about Gerson therapy and coffee enemas, because they use green juice fasting and coffee enemas. That's kind of like their protocol, and you do it for long periods of time for people, I think, that have, stage 4 diseases type of thing. And so you can look it up. But the video got pulled off of TikTok. And I was talking about the Gerson therapy. I wasn't talking about anything I do.
Yeah.
But people can find their ways to these types of treatments, or the Laetril B17 that I had here in my medicine bag. You can research into that. You can find legally where you can purchase that. And it's so funny that something like apricot kernels would be made illegal, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean, it's just a funny little world that we live in. But the more you become aware of it, and then also cancer can end up being the way, right? The obstacle is the way. And then you have some level of awakening. It takes you, everybody dies, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just how do you choose to die, and what's your legacy? What do you want to leave behind for posterity? And so for me, my digestive issues, right? Big pain in the ass, right? Bloating, gas, indigestion, weight gain, etc. And I still have these challenges. That's why I've continue my studies in fasting, my studies in herbalism, my practice. I spend all my money on my health, right? I invest all my cash on food, herbs, and I like practitioners, whether it's massage therapy or acupuncture, etc. And so, so the obstacle is the way. I become some level of expertise and at least authority over my own health as I approach 60 that's created a career, and somehow I can help humanity with that. So
I'm curious on your opinion about like diets. Like, do you see a certain diet working, or do you believe that every diet is specific to that person's like genetic makeup?
Well, I think it's a good idea when it comes to diet. I believe in the hashtag no diet diet, right? Mm-hmm. And so eat whatever the hell you want as long as it's real food, right? So stick by that. And real food is farmer direct, wild grown, wild harvested, wild hunted. That's going to be kind of the top of the food chain. And variations from there. You got biodynamic, and then you have organic, and there's 37 regulatory bodies of organic or more now. So you want to get the highest quality organics. You want to work with companies, farmers, mail order direct types of companies that have herbs. There's an herbal company called, I think, Mountain Rose Herbs. They've been making herbs forever. So they're or cultivating or working with herbal farmers. So there's good companies out there. You want to source from them, right? You want to have your own garden. That's the penultimate, really. But get the best nutrition that you can, because food is medicine, right? Yeah. And then from there, you don't want to be too neurotic. So if you go over somebody's house, you want to live a somewhat 80-20 principle, right? Mm-hmm. Pareto principle. 80% of the time, be 100% pure.
Yeah.
Right? And then that leaves you open for the other 20% to go out and have a meal outside. Pretty much, I don't do that anymore because the food's so poison, right? Mm-hmm. I don't like seed oils, and every restaurant cooks with seed oils. Mm-hmm. I don't eat gluten. I know what a food hangover feels like and looks like, so I don't eat gluten.
What's a food hangover?
Well, just if it's like,
too much food, or
hey, this pizza, cake, pie looks delicious, and then you're bloated and tired for the next 4 days. How about that? I get hit digestive wise. I get hit pretty hard, and so I'm really meticulous with what I eat. Otherwise, I wear it on my face. I wear it in my energy field, and I want my energy. I like to exercise every day. I like to play with my children. I like to ride my bicycle.
I wanted to ask you your opinion. So I have addiction to probably two things: nicotine and coffee. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's, those
are great narcotics.
Yeah, they say that it's like because of your certain personality. Like a lot of entrepreneurs are on the same. They like coffee, right? Most entrepreneur, business people, workers, coffee addiction.
Yeah, like Adderall and steroids too.
Yeah. You haven't drank coffee, right, for a few years, or did you break that?
Funny enough, I've been off caffeine now for probably 5 or 6 months. I prefer to stay off of it since waking up to what caffeine does to circadian health. Yeah. My sleep cycle, since I've had children. My son is 16 now. And when you first become a father, you're like, wow, you don't know what sleep disruption's really like when, the baby's crying at 2 o'clock in the morning and you don't have any sleep in the first place, and you got to get up to help your wife, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. And so I started doing a lot of research. I also got brain fog. I was exposed to black mold. So I had autoimmune issues.
How'd you get exposed to black mold?
There was black mold in the building that we lived in. There was leakages before we moved in.
Can't that cause like some sort of neuro toxic
Oh, dude,
effects?
I'm living it all. Yeah, neurological dysfunction in my legs, and so I have to train around it. And I'm doing pretty good though. I didn't take the diagnosis laying down. I didn't go to a doctor and go, "Hey, why am I so fucked up?
Yeah.
You got any drugs over there?"
Yeah.
I just didn't go down that road because I knew that I still have to get good sleep. I know that I have to get sunlight. I know that I got to ground. I know that I got to have good water and nutrition. I know that I got to get my breathing mechanics, the first form of nutrition, which is breath work. And so I know that I have to have all these things on point. And there's no need to go into the fancy exogenous elements until I've got those things on point. And the more pure I live my lifestyle, the more the autoimmune, chronic fatigue, and neurological issues don't fuck with me. The more I can be strong and get back to deadlifts and squats, which will build its own neural nets, the more I can practice meditation and those types of things, the more I can do barefoot walking, in the desert, these types of things, the better I feel. And so then I don't have to be dependent upon
So
upon
what about
doctors.
what about these other substances people are dependent on, caffeine, nicotine, etc.?
Well, I think that we need to look at where they come from. They come from nature, right? This is a part of us. And so caffeine is a very powerful tool, right? You can build a business on caffeine. You can build a business on Adderall too, But Adderall is going to give you major side effects. And there's nothing wrong with pure espresso, right? Illy wrote a book. It's a scientific document. It's about 1,000 pages. And some of the higher-end coffee stores may carry the book at their espresso bar, if you've ever seen it. But it's a 1,000-page document. It goes into the science of coffee, and that's why the Italians have been using espresso machines. Those espresso machines, I think, start at $15,000 to $30,000, right? Yeah. It makes the medicine in a very pure way, and you get the purest beans that you possibly can, because coffee, when it's dried, comes from tropical areas. It can get mold in it. Coffee and chocolate can get mold in it. So you want the highest quality that you can get. You don't want it burned, right, when they roast it. So paying attention to high quality, natural, organic, shade-grown coffee, that's probably important. And lo and behold, a bunch of entrepreneurs and companies have really specialized in that over the years.
What about like items like nicotine?
Well, nicotine is another powerful substance, right? And where did it come from? The number one plant with nicotine on planet Earth is tobacco, and it's a nightshade. And lo and behold, the number two is eggplant, right? Far behind that is tomatoes, right? These are all nightshade plants. And so nicotine's extremely powerful, and it's a tool. And guess what? It's the shaman's ally. And what's the definition of a shaman? A shaman is one who can walk between both worlds, right? The spirit world and the third dimension, the material world. And so it has always been the shaman's ally, the tool. The purpose of tobacco is to ground you and clear negative spirits, negative energy. And so it's a powerful shamanic tool. The thing is that like anything we have on planet Earth, right, then we commodify it, and then we adulterate it, and we synthesize it, right? We synthesize it, we standardize it, we isolate it, we patent it so we can make money for big business, whether that's cocaine, and then stomp on it again, it's crack cocaine. But if you get mambe or coca leaves and you're up in the Andes and you get a little ambil to break it down, or lye, you can break it down, and it's very euphoric, and it's nutrition, right? This is nutrition. The people in the Andes, they won't work if they don't have their coca leaves, right? And it's got a natural postnasal drip that goes down there, and it feeds you this powerful nutrition that's loaded with calcium for your bones at high elevations, right? So it's very important nutrition, but we stomp on it and we adulterate it, and that causes side effects, especially when you standardize and isolate it and you make it synthetic, ultimately. And what we did with tobacco, and some say, some of the cigarettes that we have, it's like sprayed brown paper with all these chemicals. And yeah. you've got there's 400 chemicals that are put on commercial cigarettes: saltpeter, beet sugars from GMO grown beets, all sorts of garbage, arsenic. And so, but if you get natural tobacco from the Amazon, Nicotina rustica is the strongest black tobacco from the Amazon. There's also hape, which is made from Nicotina rustica and other plants from the Amazon. That's a tobacco snuff or a chew like that. That's a chew that you have right there?
It's just like it's like pure nicotine pouch.
So, so my only question, if that's just pure nicotine, there's no tobacco in it, so there's no whole food in there, right? It's just the drug. It's an isolated component of the nicotine. So nicotine is very powerful nootropic. It helps the brain focus. There's also things that are in our environment and the commercial food supply. I know Dr. Brian Ardis talks about this. There's things in our environment that block the nicomide receptor sites, right? Snake venoms, stuff like that. And this is his theory on what's making us sick. And so nicotine can be a very powerful healing agent, especially for these subcutaneous jabs that people had in the last couple of years. And I can't speak, I don't know his information enough, but I've heard him speak personally. And I think if you are having complications from what has transpired in the last 4 years, then you may want to look into his work and the nicomide receptors and how nicotine gum or patches can actually help you heal. And so
I heard it was good for preventing. I mean, I don't know if this is some crazy stuff I hear online. I heard it actually helps prevent Alzheimer's in some way.
Yeah, it's a great nootropic. And so, but my thing is, no matter what your addiction is, let's go back to square one. Let's get you some natural stuff.
Yeah.
Let's get you some tobacco. Let's get you some tobacco, wad that up. Because if you don't like the taste or the smell, or even it can put holes in your gums and stuff, well, then balance it out. Maybe get off of it for a couple of years and see where that takes you. Get off caffeine for a few months.
You're saying like the obstacle is the way, like the only way, through is to actually, so do you think
awareness is the first step? So now that you're aware that, hey, this is an addictive substance that could be affecting me. Yes, nicotine within itself has some natural substances, and then there's natural tobacco. Can I keep a balanced state of mind? Because all the ancient sages have said, walk the middle path. All knowledge is knowledge of self. So now that you're aware that this is an addiction, it could be causing me problems, then it's on you, right, to come clean with your own addictions and work with it in a way that's going to keep you balanced instead of out of balance. And I've got addictive tendencies as well. That's why I prefer to stay off of drugs, right? That's also why I choose to stay off steroids. I see the high blood pressure and the other elements that it creates, the side effects in males my age in the gyms here in Scottsdale. Like Scottsdale, it seems like everybody's on some type of drugs.
They always say it's really good for men who are over 50 and all that. Like, it's a lot lower chance. But, I mean, at that point, isn't your heart already at risk? So you're putting your heart at risk further. Yeah.
And look, I'm a natural guy, so I'm going to try and do all this stuff in a balanced way, naturally. I mean, smacking your balls isn't the most popular thing on planet Earth, but you know what? It boosts my testosterone.
So what is that about? Like,
well, it's an ancient, sexual kung fu practice, or it stimulates the production of testosterone, and it's something that I picked up from.
You hurt? Like, you don't? It hurts, or like you just do it lightly or something?
Smacking your balls hurts no matter what.
Yeah.
So you just build up the tolerance and you breathe in through it, right? That's part of the exercise. And this came to me from one of my other testosterone adrenaline junkies, Ryan Hughes, the motocross champion of the world.
I mean, I've heard of icing your balls like 20 minutes a day for 2-3 times, but smacking them, it's like
after an ice bath, it's euphoric.
Okay.
I did it on Netflix. I mean, anybody watching can check it out. It's on Netflix. Chad and JT Goes Deep, episode 5, Stokers Unite.
And then there's also the last one. I know most people.
And we shoot Hape up the nose as well. So we go through all these natural medicine practices.
So I know most people probably start with this. I didn't start with all the crazy stuff, but you also drink urine. Like what is that? Drinking your own urine. How is that good? And I thought only Bear Grylls did that.
Yeah. So the research that I've done. I mean, first of all, it came to me as a health principle. From the yogis, 5,000 years old, Ayurvedic medicine. It's called Shivambu.
If it's coming out of your body, isn't it supposed to be excreted? Why would you?
The research that I've shown as far as the factoids, and you can find out more through Dr. Edward Group and his website, urinetherapy.com. And there's some research on there as far as stem cells and antibodies and antigens. So it excretes, I don't know if I can give it the best science explanation, but it comes out in a different form where it's not the,
Are you just
so if you have heavy metals in your body, it's not going to come out as those heavy metals. It's going to come out as a signature of that, like a homeopathic imprint. And the urine is actually plasma ultrafiltrate, an amniotic fluid, which is where a child gestates for 9 months, is the woman's urine. And then once the baby gets mature enough, it starts urinating as well in the womb, this amniotic fluid. And then it's breathing and circulating the amniotic fluid, and this is what is building a child. Right? And so in 2008, I read this off of the urinetherapy.com website. There was a nice little scientific paper there. In 2008, they discovered that I think there was 140 colonal stem cells. Is that the? Don't quote me. I'm no scientist, right? And so I'm no Andrew Huberman. And so, and again, this is all people's research and information. I pick up everything intuitively, like like men should, right? This is our faculties given to us by the Creator, is our own intuition, our gut instincts. It's there if we actually tap into it. And so that's why I started practicing it 20 years ago. But 20 years later...
Do you just drink it straight, or...?
Yep, I do that. I age it, aged urine enemas. I snort it. You know, people don't like hearing this because of the mental... aspect of it. But it makes sense that I don't think that the panacea really exists, but if it did, God would have made it in you. And people find their way to the practice usually during war. During these times where we have allopathic medicine, they're not going to sell you your own panacea, right? They're going to tell you it's bad for you, or there's not going to be as much prevalent information available for the usage of it. But if there's war, it's an antiseptic, and it's been used, I think in the Civil War, they used it for surgical instruments, etc. And so, and if one guy doesn't have enough urine for himself, they use the other guy's urine. They did that in World War I. J.W. Armstrong wrote the Water of Life. People can read more information there, urinetherapy.com. But this one paper talked about colonal stem cells. I do believe what it was called in your morning pee. There's about 140 of them. If you let it sit for more than 3 weeks, I think it creates 100 million stem cells. And if you look into stem cell therapy right now, I think they offer it from $10,000 to $30,000. You can go down to Panama, or you can go to Costa Rica and get it. And these are mesenchymal stem cells, usually taken from umbilical cords or other people. How about your own stem cells that know how to tell your DNA how to replicate? And it also has telomeres and telomerase. Again, read the paper. Come to your own conclusions, but it has all these elements. And what are telomeres? Telomeres is it has the element in your DNA. When you have less telomeres, you're dead, right? And so it extends life. It's a longevity tool. I heard this many years ago, the basic tenets of it, and just drank it. And I was like, oh, that's pretty electrifying. It wasn't harmful for me. This is good for me. Okay, so I did that.
Did you notice a difference?
Intuitively, I just picked up the practice. I don't know. I'm 58, this month, and I don't know. People dispute the fact that juicing works. People dispute the fact that herbal medicine has any application in our modern world. People dispute sunlight without SPF protection, right? People, it's scientifically validated that our pesticide and herbicide-laden food and chemicalized food is all A-OK for human consumption. That glyphosate is A-OK for human consumption. Like, how did that get put on the market?
So you would say go organic for when you buy food?
Fuck yeah. I mean, invest in your own bloodstream. If you're not, you're getting duped, right? And you can live, that way, and maybe your genetics will allow you to, but just look at the health and the state of your brothers and sisters whenever you go out to anywhere public. It's rare that I see healthy human specimens. Mm-hmm. Fucking rare, right? I don't see women that I want to impregnate, right? I don't see women that I want to have a family with, right? There are not a lot of healthy human beings out there, especially the women out there today that are flaunting their bodies and they have caked up on makeup, they have plastic surgery. This is a psychological no-no for me, because if they're doing that to their bodies, what is their psychological makeup behind having sex with this person, right? Mm-hmm. And I stopped having sex with women a few years back, just because I wanted to go deeper in my own spirituality, my own practice of sexual kung fu, cultivation of my own sexual energy. And so, and now I choose to be friends with women, right? Let me build a relationship with this woman that I'm attracted to, or we have attraction for each other. And lo and behold, I don't want to have sex with most of the women that I meet. Sure, you could go for a romp in the sheets, but that's very short-lived because there's an emotional connection, there's a quantum entanglement, and so so I've taken the time to go celibate and to explore and work on myself more, and so and there's just not a lot of women that I see out there that I want to have a family with. And that's where my head is at, really. If I go to bed with a woman, then that means, I want to have children. Mm-hmm. And so, and again, I'm not trying to come on my high horse or I'm perfect or anything like that. I come from where everybody else comes from. I come from this culture.
All right. So ripped at 50. So what's your golden advice? Right here. What's your golden advice? If somebody wants to be ripped at 50.
Well, apply the 9 pillars of health that I've identified. And I think if there's anybody else out there that has foundation principles, they're probably pretty much the same. You've got movement, you've got nutrition, you've got hydration, you got sleep. These are very important, those basic fundamental principles. I use breath work because I've been teaching breath work for many years online. And breath is the first form of nutrition, and our overall respiration is directly related to our cellular respiration, and our cellular respiration is directly related to our overall health. And so I teach how to optimize your breathing mechanics. James Nestor has a book on that called Breathe. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast. They plugged up his nose and he was a mouth breather for 2 weeks, and I think he got 2 diseases during that time, right? Very short amount of time.
So I actually have a deviated septum, so I breathe a lot through my mouth, but I try to clear and breathe through my nose as much as possible. What do you suggest I do?
Well, on that podcast, and I recommend going back and listening to it. Have you listened to it?
I have not.
Yeah, so I recommend going back there because they do advocate surgery. I think James Nestor, he's not big on surgery, but that's one thing because breathing is so important. And neck breathing puts us in a fight or flight state, elevated cortisol, neck breathing, mouth breathing. Because when we get gassed out, fighters, or when we're running, if we get gassed out, that's a fight or flight situation. And we don't want elevated cortisol when we're trying to fall asleep. And so in his book, he talks about taping your mouth shut at night. But if you have a deviated septum and you have issues in your nasal cavity, then he does recommend the surgery. And Joe Rogan and him talk about that on that podcast. Okay. So I recommend anyone who is a mouth breather, neck pain, dry mouth, lots of cavities, stuff like that, look into your breathing mechanics. I have a very simple exercise where I teach people. It's a martial arts move, a very gentle exercise to reprogram the diaphragm. It's in my Breath is Life breathwork course. It's online. And it's very inexpensive as well if you want it. And there's other videos that I've made on it as well. And so reprogramming the diaphragm, because that's the first form of nutrition next to sunlight, in my book of health. And so, but for men, figure out your legacy. For women, do you want to have a family? Do you want to have children? And so that can be legacy enough.
Okay, so we just took a break. We're going to be back for a little bit, and we're going to do a rapid fire, but Troy wanted to change up the energy, so we're going to get some questions here, and we're going to see how we can help you guys with some of the most commonly asked questions. So what are some of the most commonly asked questions? And tell me right now maybe your number one most commonly asked question, and what do you suggest they do?
Well, it's kind of like the line of questioning we were going through before of what is it? What's the most simplest way to stay healthy? And it's the nature-based principles. It's a lifestyle. There is no TRT, steroid, boob job, injection, gimmick that is just going to set you up. No red light therapy, ice baths every day. Ice baths is part of nature, right? It's a tool in the toolbox. But there is no silver bullet. We're programmed to believe that the silver bullet exists because of the allopathic medical industry. And so it's all of it. It's all based in nature. Get a natural lifestyle. That's your silver bullet, right?
What do you say about those who are dealing with very common ailments today? Diabetes, lupus,
diabetes, get your nutrition on point. Don't fuck around with your nutrition. Don't bullshit yourself, right? Type 2 diabetes is curable. It's always been curable. It's a blood sugar imbalance. Like, cut yourself off from the sugar, make your body scavenge itself, go through autophagy, get a good fasting coach, someone who can take you through getting all that blood sugar out of your body, and harmonize the body, eating plants, cleaning out the body, and then using animal fats, animal meats, organ meats to help to balance out the body. You need dense nutrition in the body, not fucking sugar and processed foods. That's what's going to bog the system down. Lupus, autoimmune and stuff like that, that is a body that's out of balance. It's denatured. And so, there's health and there's sickness. You can call it cancer, diabetes, this, that, and the other thing, but the body is out of balance. Get it back into balance. How do you do it? The 9 pillars in my curriculum, in my book, etc. It outlines that completely. And nutrition is going to have to be so important. Weston A. Price has got a great foundation, Weston A. Price Foundation. If you want to find out about nourishing traditions, natural, traditional foods that we've eaten for centuries, if not millennia.
So what do you think about the diet, not just the diet, but the vegan or vegetarian lifestyle? Do you agree with it?
I rarely see a healthy vegan. Rarely. And I've rescued more malnourished vegans off the internet than anyone that I know of, and famous vegans. So people write me and they had a dream of me, and then they went out, they woke up and they went and ate a hamburger and they felt better. And since then, and you see this, the pendulum swings both ways. People go vegan and vegan dogmatic, and then next thing you know, they're full carnivore. And so it's just a process of becoming. Some people take veganism to raw foodism to fruitarianism, all the way to breatharianism. And, someone just died last year in Bali that was a famous, fruitarian.
Weightlifter. Yeah, the weightlifter, right?
No, this was a girl, the one that I recollect. But look, natural eating, it's a good idea to start getting your game on towards natural eating. I was vegan 30 years ago. When I started reading the literature, I got caught up in the vegan dogma. The people that wrote the book that I read, I caught up to her later on in life on Facebook. It was 40 years after she wrote the book, Fit for Life. It was Marilyn Diamond. She was in her 70s. She said that it ruined me hormonally and I almost killed myself. Mm-hmm. Right? I almost died because of that diet. And so, and the dogma and the literature was just like we weren't meant to eat meat. And I do believe that we can evolve spiritually beyond that. Steiner, Yogananda, they both wrote about this later on in life, but you don't put the cart before the horse. Work out your spirituality, work out your own health and becoming. And then if it's a natural gravitation to go towards a vegetarian or vegan diet, I believe the world's so wired with stress that it's very hard to be on that type of diet. So,
do you think that the carnivore diet is also just as bad, or is it good for you? Or
I believe in balance ultimately. And so I think all these diets have application for people at the right time. It's can you sustain your life on it long term? And and can you be healthy, strong, vital? Because some of these diets can be very cleansing or very nourishing. So a carnivore diet, as long as you're getting the pure stuff, right? And look at some of the biggest carnivores that we've had out there recently. Is it Liver King? And he's in business with Paul Saladino. And but what are they selling? They're selling their liver supplements. Now, I don't know the quality of these things, but I do know that the Liver King was outed as taking $12,000 a month worth of steroids. So it wasn't the fucking liver, right? Yeah. It wasn't the carnivore diet. It was his steroids. Right, I don't know about the Saladino situation.
What about Jordan Peterson? Also was.
Now Jordan Peterson had an autoimmune, issue, and his gut was inflamed, and we're dealing with leaky gut syndrome across the board because of all the inflammatory agents in our food. And so it makes sense that his gut got compromised, and then a healing element to that is bone broth, is meat-only diet, that saturated fat, etc. And so I do believe even the vegan diet can be very cleansing for some people, right? It can give you results in the beginning, but your body's still going to have to go towards balance. And nutrition is only one of the 9 pillars that I have. What is the quality of water that Jordan Peterson is drinking? Is it plastic water bottles because he travels so much? And what's the quality of that plastic water bottles? Or is he getting pure water? Does Jordan Peterson get a lot of sunlight? He lives in Canada and he looks like he doesn't. Sunlight is a huge cure for many things, right? Getting grounded. If we're in our shoes and Wi-Fi all day long and we're not getting grounded.
So I actually moved from Washington State, to here, because I couldn't operate in that anymore. And living here, it's completely changed my energy levels in my life. Right.
You cured yourself, right from there. And we never really arrive, so there's always stuff to work with. Like you talked about that herbalist that you work with. Maybe you still have more work to do with them. The bottom line is the obstacle is the way, so you're going to find your way. Me going through a divorce, me drinking ayahuasca in the Amazon, me getting black mold exposure, me getting robbed in business. It's like these things are making me stronger, right?
Yeah. Could we adjust it? I want to sit back down for a little bit.
You do? All right, come on.
Can we adjust these?
Here.
I kind of owe Troy though. I rescheduled on him and I owe him.
No,
so.
it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. Well, I looked at your stuff and I think you canceled the first time and then
No, that was on me. I had 3 in the same week.
But then you asked me again, and I do everybody's podcast.
Yeah,
I'm happy to. But I looked at your stuff and I was like, no, I mean this will be good. So
Well, it was the same thing. Like we had 3 in 1 week. He was here, and I was supposed to have him as a 4th, and I was like, gosh, dude, I can't handle this. Like my body was tired, man. I had so many things going on, and then. But I'm glad we got this on the schedule.
So let's talk about burnout, because that's really where it's at. Like what you just said there. I think it's very important as businessmen that we talk about burnout, because a lot of guys, they want the secret sauce, right? They want the secret diet. They want the secret fitness program. But what they really want, and this is what's being sold on the internet, is steroids, right? But the fact of the matter is cortisol breaks the body down. Cortisol shuts digestion down and stores fat. So a stressed out body, an overweight body is a stressed out body. And so what I help men do is work beyond burnout. Because if we don't watch ourselves in this grind, hustle, fake economy that keeps shifting, right? We can burn ourselves out. And that's not what life's about. We want to be balanced. We want to be available for our loved ones. We want to be strong and clear as individuals. And we've been sold this bill of goods like it's just another Huberman podcast away before I become excellent in my lifestyle or whatever. I just need more science to understand things. And then, I can get back to my caffeine, nicotine, shitty food, poor sleep, grilled, dialed into my screens 24/7, email notifications on, etc. And this is burning us the fuck out, right? This is giving us joint pain. This is giving us ulcers. Remember, the mind is so powerful, it can bore holes in the stomach. That's called ulcers. We can get ulcerated colitis, etc. Leaky gut syndrome from the garbage that we're eating, elevated cortisol. The body's not digesting the food properly anyways. And so this is the syndrome that we're living in right now. Everybody needs to slow down, take a deep breath. And actually, if you get on to, some of the spiritual
Wim
teachers
Hof
or Wim Hof, that's what they're telling people to do. Hey, man, it's time to slow down, reel it in. What's the power of an ice bath? The power of the ice bath is to be with the power of the ice and the fire and the energy that you're dealing with, and be with it in those 3 minutes or 1 minute or 5 minutes or whatever you're doing, is to be with it, to slow down, right? That's the power of nature. That's the power of God. That's the power that's in us all. If we would just slow down, time slows down, right? But no, everybody's like fast paced, and I need more money, more time, more energy, let me just get more caffeine and energy drinks and sugar, and everybody's just facing burnout, and they don't want to hear that simple answer. Because they're like, well, no, it's just a podcast, more information. What's the secret diet? What's the secret exercise? What's just the steroid that I can take to make it all go away?
Yeah. And so essentially what you're saying is that this is all a means to just living a healthier lifestyle. It's what everybody needs. It's not about anything other than just be natural. Be as natural as you can, take one step at a time.
All roads lead back to God. Death is a part of life, right? We're all going to die, and then you're going to figure it out. You're like, oh, yeah, there's the whole thing, right? Mm. Or you could smoke some DMT and figure that out as well. But
well, you went to the forest. You did ayahuasca in the Amazon and stuff. So what was your motivation for that?
Spiritual exploration, human exploration, being my own psychedelic cosmonaut.
Do you think that benefited you in your life?
To go deeper into the mind or the machinations of my own
just
mind?
Like that trip, those trips that you took down there?
Fuck yeah. I mean, my intention when I went to Peru the first time was to open up my heart and connect with the divine feminine in all of its facets. The earth is the divine feminine. I fell in love with the children down there, the women, my heart opened up incredibly. I had nothing but love and gratitude coming out of the jungle. And, I grew up on the street, so I've been a little rough around the edges and since I was younger. And so opening up my heart has been a big part of my trajectory. And I came home wanting to start a family. And that has been a big heart opening for me, my whole relationship with my family. And it continues to be this day, including through my divorce. And, I love my ex-wife dearly, and I'm so sad it didn't work out to the level that we, started the family with. And I love my children. I'm with my children 24/7 since the day they were born. And so maybe I go off on a business trip here or there, but it's imperative that I'm with my children. My son loves hockey, and I support that. So he is in a boarding school right now. So, and it was, it was a little heartbreaking because he's 16 and I don't want to let him go. But he calls me up and he's like, Dad, I love it up here. My friends are here, and I just want to play hockey. We went through 2 divorces, our family, because we got back together. He's like, Dad, I just want to play hockey. And so I completely, support that with him. And, that is the higher spiritual journey, the family, our relationships. And choosing my family has helped me become a better father, husband, lover. Even if I fall on my face, I keep rising to that occasion. How can I be better? How can I make sure that I'm there for my children, living my legacy, doing something that's right on this planet, as opposed to just having a job that's just making money, right? Leading by example.
So for everybody watching, you can find Troy Casey at Certified Health Nut. And Troy, thank you so much for your time, everybody, and go ahead and get the book if you want to be ripped at 50. Thank you guys so much. Kicking ass, taking names.